Whether you're still on the fence about purchasing Assassin's Creed Shadows, or if you're just so excited for as much information as possible about this game, then this video is for you. I've got over 60 hours in the game as of time of recording, and today I'll be using my knowledge to help you get to grips with it too by covering 10 lesser known facts about AC Shadows that you need to know before you get stuck in. And one last thing before we get into the meat of the video, I cover a huge variety of games on this channel, so if you want plenty of guides for the likes of AC Shadows, Atomfall, Clair Obscur, Doom and Borderlands 4, make sure you subscribe because this is the place for you. Fact number 1 is that you now have the choice to take out all of the choices in the game. This is a feature that has been incessantly requested by fans and lore lovers alike. So now in Assassin's Creed Shadows, Ubisoft have decided to add in a canon narrative version of the game. You will select this as one of your starting options alongside difficulty when loading up the game for the first time, and it will now let you experience the true canon reference story that was used to create AC Shadows. If you enjoy more of an RPG style narrative, you can still choose all of these choices yourself, and of course some of them are going to impact certain decisions, certain characters that may join you, certain characters that may not live quite as long as they would otherwise. Or if you want, you can do away with all of this choice and all of this gambling with people's lives, and you can let the game play out exactly as the lore-friendly narrative would. The second fact is that you can transmog your armor in this game. Yes, transmogrification exists in AC Shadows, and it's pretty damn extensive. If we take a look at weapons here, every single weapon you find throughout the game, whether that's from looting someone, from opening a chest, from completing a quest, or even purchasing it from a merchant, even if you never use that item, and you just dismantle it or sell it, its appearance will be automatically and permanently added to your transmog list for you to go and choose at any time. But wait, there's more. You don't even just need to transmog to that exact weapon's appearance. If you like the hilt from this weapon, and the blade from this weapon, and the guard from this weapon, and the sheath from this weapon, you can mix and match from every single weapon you have found throughout the entire game to create your perfect transmogrification. And something similar can even be done with your armor. You don't have quite as much of the nitty-gritty, but you can choose from every single armor and every single helm or hood that you have found throughout the entirety of the game, meaning you can look exactly as swag as you want while still being stat efficient. Next up is the brand new addition to the game, the Animus Hub. With Assassin's Creed Shadows comes the introduction of the Animus Hub, a one-stop shop for all things Assassin's Creed. This is split up into 4 sections. First up, you have got Memories. This is the home of the hub. This will allow you to explore the Assassin's Creed timeline, and from one handy location will allow you to launch all of your own games. Next up, you have got Projects, which grants you access to regularly released missions. These, I believe, from what I have seen so far, are weeklies, and there appears to be 4 of them, though that may change when the game fully releases, and they will enable you to unlock exclusive rewards via the brand new in-game currency, keys. That's right, you earn keys simply by playing the game and completing projects. There are keys to be gathered throughout the game world as well, however the majority of your keys will come from completing these project missions. Then you will take that free currency and you will use it in the third part of the Animus Hub, the exchange. This is where you take all of them keys and you will exchange them for premium rewards. And trust me, there are some really cool armor sets on offer. And finally, we have the Vault, which is an archive of all of the data files, videos, and key pieces that you collect from the franchise's ongoing modern-day story, which will be constantly updated and added to as the games and the franchise expand. The next fact is how the game plays out. So this plays out over 5 major narrative arcs. There is a strong story at the core of the game. However, many of the objectives, quests, and opportunities can be tackled in an extremely non-linear fashion, and I am not exaggerating that. Like, it can be quite overwhelming for a completionist and someone who wants specific guidance just how open world this game is. There are 9 main areas, and I'm probably about halfway through, and I have quests in 8 of the 9 areas, and absolutely no indication as to which ones I should do when. It is completely down to me, which is both incredible and terrifying. I'm like, game, please just tell me what to do. It's like, just do it all. It's fine. Just do it whenever you like. And it can be quite overwhelming, but really cool that the game gives you this kind of freedom. Anyway, I digress. 5 major narrative arcs. So you will start with the prologue, which introduces you to the 2 characters. This is around an hour long. You'll then spend the next 6 to 12 hours as Naoe, becoming familiar with her gameplay elements, her story, and her motivations, etc. You'll then be reintroduced to Yasuke and go through a similar experience with him. And it's at this point, around probably the 15 to 16 hour mark, that the game really opens up. And in my opinion, this is when it really begins to shine. Now you will have many main objectives that can be handled in basically any order, and you can freely switch between the 2 main characters to complete all quests in whatever way you see fit. There are then 2 more major narrative arcs after this huge section, but I will leave you in the dark about them because I do not like to put spoilers in videos if I can help it. Next up, this is more of a piece of advice than anything, and this is to never skip a cutscene. Not only is the story incredible, especially when you start to learn about the Brotherhood and the Assassin's Guild and all that stuff, spoilers, but perhaps just as important is the fact that there are many seemingly minor details in quite a few cutscenes that end up being incredibly important, especially if you are someone who chose to adopt the more RPG style of narrative storytelling rather than the canon arc. Just to give you one really random example, which won't be a spoiler because it's so out of context, at one point you're basically trying to pose as a merchant, and there's a cutscene explaining proper etiquette, how low you should bow, specifically how far you should rotate a bowl before drinking from it to make sure you are truly appreciating the architecture of the bowl. Seems like a really random ass cutscene. Incredibly important. If you do not nail all of this etiquette, you can screw up the questline big time and make enemies of a lot of people that you didn't need to make enemies of. Honestly, the level of detail that's gone into even the most minor of cutscenes in this game is incredible. So seriously, pay attention to everything, soak it all in, not just for the immersion, but also to help you not suck at the game. Fact number 6 is that you can pet practically every single animal you see in this game. There is also an activity called Sumi-e, which is an ink wash painting activity, and you can use this to paint lots of animals that you see out in the wild, and more often than not, your reward is you can then add that animal as a pet to your hideout, and you can go back and you can give that animal pets to your heart's content. But alongside that, as I say, there are lots of cats and dogs wandering around towns as well, and if you go and pet a new type of cat or dog, you unlock that cat or dog as a pet that you can again add to your hideout for maximum cuddles. There are so many animals you can collect and place in your hideout. The only problem you will have is which ones do I place, because they are limited and you unfortunately cannot have 100 of every single one, which would be the ideal situation. And if you are a cat lover, keep an eye out, for somewhere in this game is a hidden cat island. Fact number 7 is the importance of seasons in this game. Seasons will come and go, seasons will change just as they do in the real world. You have very little control over it, and sometimes they change at very inopportune times. Later on in the game, you will gain the ability to manipulate the seasons, and you can skip entire seasons should you wish to. And actually, they have many important gameplay features. Certain quests can only be completed in certain seasons, and at the end of each season, you will automatically and for free replenish all of your scouts, and also be given a brand new batch of contracts. Now, I appreciate scouts and contracts aren't going to mean anything to you at the moment, but the purpose of this video isn't to give you a beginner's guide, it's just to introduce you to things you may not know about Shadows, and seasons is the theme of this tip. If you would like to know more about things like scouts and contracts, make sure you subscribe and keep your ears and eyes peeled, because I have a bunch of beginner and advanced guides coming out over the next few days. But the main important thing to take away from here is seasons exist in the game, and not only is it absolutely stunning seeing the environments change, they have very heavy impacts on the gameplay as well. Such as, fun little fact for you here, sneak peek of my advanced tips video, Yokai is much better to use in the winter because he is not slowed down when running through heavy snow. However, Naoe is. She struggles because obviously she's a lot lighter and a lot smaller than he is. So little things like that have genuine actual gameplay impact, which I think is fantastic. The next thing you really need to know about this game to help you determine whether this is for you or not is that Shadows has the most heavy RPG elements of any Assassin's Creed. Obviously the last few, Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla especially, have all had quite heavy RPG elements. It goes really in depth in this game with engraving and crafting, dismantling, changing up stats, how the skill system interacts with your runes and your engravements. Like, genuinely, the amount of builds that you can create in this game is absolutely crazy. Naoe is absolutely terrible at combat. Early game, you will be given a false sense of security, and you'll think, what you're on about, Dom? I can crush enemies in the early game. Wait till you get to level 40. She starts to struggle unless you really hone in on the RPG elements and you make a proper build. For that reason, I do have a Naoe build guide coming out to make her a lot more manageable in the late game, because otherwise you basically just end up having to play her as a pure stealth assassin, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, you're playing Assassin's Creed at the end of the day. It's absolutely great to do, but it's really cool to be able to have the option to fight with her as well. And because this game is so heavy in the RPG, and because it is one of the more challenging Assassin's Creeds, you need to learn and fully understand this system. So just bear that in mind as you're going into the game. Fact number 9 is twofold. Here I'm going to talk about cosmetics and blueprints, and also merchants. So merchants are scattered around the game world, and they come in various different forms. Gear merchants, ornament merchants, food merchants, and they all sell and do different things. But the main few takeaways from this fact in particular are that whenever you switch characters, or whenever seasons change, a merchant's inventory will refresh. And I mentioned cosmetics and blueprints. There are loads and loads and loads of these so that you can fully customize your hideout. In fact, apart from big buildings like castles, I believe every single in-game asset can be found somewhere and added to your hideout. So you can literally make any scene that your imagination can think of, as long as it's an asset that exists within Shadows. So for this reason, if you find an ornament vendor, you definitely want to switch characters and change seasons frequently and buy all the cosmetics so you can make your hideout look absolutely magnificent. And finally, my friends, as many people who are a fan of Japanese folklore and culture are probably already aware of, it is rich in supernatural stories and ghost stories. And many people have probably already heard various myths around yokai, ghosts, the supernatural spirits, demons, malevolent monsters and creatures, all that kind of stuff. And these stories feature heavily in AC Shadows. but are tailored and portrayed as malevolent people acting out these myths in a separate quest chain called the Yokai board. So you can find human versions of all manner of Japanese myths and folklore and supernatural ghost stories in this Yokai quest board. Really, really cool, really fun to do. Make sure, even if you don't like doing loads and loads and loads of side content, make sure you do tick all of the quests off on this board, because it's a really fun one, super unique, absolute 10 out of 10 side content. That's all I had for you for this video, my friends. Again, make sure you subscribe. I've got loads more content upcoming: beginner guides, advanced guides, build guides, things you might have missed, secrets, hidden mechanics, the works. And with that, my friends, all that is left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.